So in my bowl I have 2 cups of rice flour, which is approximately 320 grams. I've got 1 cup of plain flour, which is approximately 145 grams. Got 1 cup of gur or date molasses, which is roughly 320 grams, and I've got 1/4 cup of sugar, which is about 50 grams of sugar. So once you've added all of that to the bowl, you want to get some water. Just make sure it's not too cold, and you want to slowly use your hands for this part. It's important to use your hands because I think the bacteria from your hands actually creates a better batter. Try not to mix it with a spoon. I've got a pint of water here, but I'm not sure how much of it I'll be using. I might need all of it, I might not, and that depends on the type of rice flour you use and how absorbent it is. So just keep mixing it using your hands. Try not to add too much water and take out any lumps that you can see. So I'm just going to add that water for now, and I'm going to keep mixing this. And you want the batter to be fairly thick, but not too thick. And I'll show you the consistency. It's quite difficult to actually capture the right consistency in a photo. So that's why I'm going to show you in a video the kind of consistency that you want. And keep mixing it until you've actually taken all of the flour and the rice flour in with the water. So can you see it's quite thick at the moment? I'm going to keep mixing this. Right, and at the moment it's actually thicker than I would like, but I don't want to add too much water and making it really runny. So I'm just going to keep mixing it. Right, now I'm actually going to start adding some more water. Now that I can see most of the flours have been absorbed. And you want to let the batter rest also. You need to let it rest in order for all of my sister-in-law always tells me that gurye fani khaytuibo. So that basically means that the rice flour and the plain flour has to absorb some of the liquid, and that's the key to making a really good batter. So you need to rest it for a few hours. I'm going to add some more water. So at the moment I can see I've used 1/2 pint of water for this, which is about, trying to figure it out, 250 milliliters of water. Right, and this is starting to look about right. I'm going to add a little bit more water, and it should run off of your hands easily like this, but it shouldn't just completely drop off. Can you see it's looking like a nice and that's what it should look like. It should be one constant stream. I don't know if you can see. Can you see it's not breaking in the batter? There's no breaks, it's going in one long stream, and that's the ideal consistency. When you've got it like that, it's ready. Now I'm going to just remove any lumps that I can feel using my fingers and my hands. And like I said, it's important to use your hands because I actually think the bacteria from your hands makes this a little bit more fluffy and puffy and just better. Don't use a whisk, use your hands. Right? And that's the perfect batter. There you go. So that was about 1/2 pint of water. About 250 milliliters. And that's done. Okay, so now that I've mixed my batter and it is the consistency that I'm looking for, so as you can see it's just one long stream. There are no breaks until you run out of the batter, obviously, but this is the consistency that you're looking for. You want to leave this to rest for about 4 to 5 hours. If you do leave it overnight, which I don't prefer to do, And the reason is I find that when I let it rest for too long, I find that the batter becomes too watery, and then I have to add a little bit more rice flour or plain flour to actually fix it. So if you do leave it overnight, then you might want to actually add a little bit more flour to get it back to this consistency. So I'm going to let that rest, and then when I fry it, you guys will see what they turn out like. Right, so my Handesh batter has actually rested. It's rested overnight. I know I said I didn't like leaving it overnight, but it got dark yesterday and I didn't want to be frying in the dark and, you know, finishing everything off in the dark, so I waited till this morning. I'm not sure if the batter is going to be as loose as it sometimes does get. I'll check that with a cup. I like to use a cup to pour. And I've got here a wok with a lot of oil. Remember, when you're frying Handesh, you need the wok or the saucepan or whatever you're using to have a lot of oil in it, so that the batter can actually fall to the bottom and then gently rise to the top. If you don't have enough oil, what will happen is the batter will just stay at the bottom and it will end up burning. So you need a lot of oil, and you want to get the oil hot to about smoking point and then turn it down. And the reason is that the oil has to be hot in order for the batter to get in there and start frying and lifting, you know, to the surface of the oil straight away. If you don't heat it up properly, the batter is just going to stay there at the bottom of the pan or the wok or whatever you're using to fry in. So I'm going to grab a cup, and then I'm going to start pouring the batter in, and I'll show you exactly what it should look like. Now remember, the first 1 or 2 Handesh might be, you know, a flop, but that's not an indication of what your batter will be like, or it shouldn't be. Usually I find that the first 1 or 2 Handesh do end up being a little bit hit and miss, so just bear that in mind when you actually start frying. Okay, so I've grabbed a cup, which is what I like to use to actually pour my Handesh batter, and my batter, like I said, has rested overnight. And I actually think this is, I know you guys can't see it very well, I actually think this is going to be fine because it hasn't gone very watery. Can you see? It's still a long, thick stream of batter and it's not breaking. So I like to actually mix it up again before I start frying, just so that there aren't any solid lumpy bits and any fluid bits. Just mix it like that. And like I said, you want the oil to be really hot. You want it to be almost to smoking point. I'm going to readjust the camera so that you can see a little bit better. There we go. Okay, so my oil is really nice and hot. It's almost smoking. I don't know if you guys can tell. So I've got my cup ready with my batter in it. Moment of truth. Bismillah. And hopefully that is just going to rise up on its own and come to the surface and puff up beautifully. And there it goes. And you shouldn't have to turn it over until it's nice and brown on the underside. That's what I like to do. I like to leave it and let it get nice and golden brown on the underside, and that way the bottom of the Handesh cooks, so you can actually turn it over. Otherwise you'll find that it just keeps flipping back to the right side up. And if you find the Handesh are browning too quickly, you can always lower the heat. You do have to keep an eye on the heat, depending on how many Handesh you add to the pan. So if you add a lot of Handesh in, you'll obviously need to turn the heat up a little bit more. If, like me, you're only doing 2 or 3 at a time, you won't need such a high heat. And you need to also make sure that they're cooking through to the center. So if they're browning too quickly on the outside and the middle isn't getting cooked, turn the heat down and let them cook a little bit slowly. And as you can see, this one looks nice and brown on the underside, so I'm going to turn this over now. And you'll see that it won't keep flipping back the other side up once you've cooked it through properly. This one's looking almost ready as well. And you can add more than 2 or 3 in the pan at a time and get some more batter. Just make sure that they don't touch one another, because you don't want to ruin the shape of your handesh by overcrowding the pan. I'm going to turn this one over now. And these are looking done, so I'm going to take these out. And can you see how beautiful they're ruffled at the edges? You see? That's what you're looking for. And it does take a long time to fry a whole batch of handesh. This amount of batter will give me between, I'd say 25 and 30 maybe handesh. I'll count them at the end. But yeah, it does take a long time to fry all of the handesh, because as you can see I'm doing them 3 to 4 at a time. So give yourself time to actually fry all of this. Bengali people usually, when they make this for nasta, for Eid day, they fry them the night before and then they just heat them up on a tawa the following morning. So yeah, just bear that in mind if you do plan on making this. That one's not fully done yet, it's still looking a little bit light brown, so I'm just going to let that fry a bit more. And there, those are done. And can you see how beautiful they look? Look at those ruffled edges. Don't they look gorgeous?